Jan, iFunds Pharma is mostly a pharmaceutical distributor, also manufacturers, but mostly distributors. What are the key pain points that you see from an environmental standpoint as a distributor?
Okay, so actually, 80% of our business is distribution, 20% is our own brands, of course, that we are trying to develop. As a distributor and also as a brand owner, I mean, the main pain points for us will be packaging. I think clearly, you know, in our industry, most of the time we rely on a single use plastic, you know, packaging material. And this is a big concern. We do have a brand, food supplement brand, for example, the bottle are in plastic. So, okay, so how you manage it? Something, of course, we are trying to find solution. For example, we are trying to develop refill pack, or the consumption of plastic is 90% less, something we have been launching 2 years ago, and we are trying to develop further these kind of initiatives. Because in general, in our industry, packaging requires extensive packaging. I mean, to ensure safety, to maintain product integrity, and also to meet regulatory requirements. And this, I mean, lead to excessive use of materials, or plastic, of aluminium, and also energy. And we know that also this has a big impact on the environment. So we are trying to work with some partners. They are trying to see, of course, how they can limit the use of materials. And, you know, we have some partners that are B Corp certified, for example, very engaged, very, very engaged in sustainability in Europe today. So, of course, you know, if you also look at supply chain, that is in our pharma industry very regulated. I think this is something that also it's a pain point because yes, for example, you cannot afford to get, you know, a big temperature variation of your product. So this is something, and also sometimes you have to ship by air versus ship by sea. And I don't know exactly the difference in terms of carbon footprint, but I will say from what I have read that the footprint, carbon footprint for sea shipment is 20 to 30 times less than sea shipment. So I think something also to consider moving forward. And we do have partners in Europe, for example, who are telling us, guys, we will be stopping very soon to ship by air. No more. Even if you are out of stock, you don't have any product, and we know from Europe to Southeast Asia, it's 6 weeks to get your products. So, and supply, we have seen that it's supply after COVID has been really disrupted, especially from Europe and US.
But you make a good point here, Jan, and that's a question I would have for you, Matthias. You know, since one can only report what can be measured, what do you see as the main issues in measuring environmental achievements?
So, I mean, in CDP, we always say we can't manage what you don't measure, right? Measurement is a key foundation of, I guess, what the world needs right now in terms of a core data set. Some people look at carbon emissions as a core currency of assessing where we are towards net zero. That is the truth. We can't run away from that measurements. We understand that measurements does relate to the paradigm of cost. We do have companies, especially small ones, telling us, firstly, I don't have expertise. I need to bring on people. I need to bring on software. I've diversified businesses. It's taking time to measure, taking time to verify. If I can't put out data that doesn't have the desired quality, I need people to look through the data and ensure that the data is robust, right? Because if once I put it out there, I declare that I'm on a net zero trajectory, and the next thing you know, oh, I forgot emissions back end. That doesn't bode too well for the company's reputation. But that said, I think the world will come to that. There's great expertise building around. Even Europe, expertise in Europe were very far ahead in those emission inventorizing services and verification services. We see a community building up here. I know Praveen. Praveen's colleagues are part of that, and they are contributing as part of us working on Enterprise Singapore in the SME space, trying to build capacity in the market. That said, I would like to also highlight that beyond the emissions data, CDP collects a lot of data points. And actually, across environmental data points, we actually collect over 3,000 data points. Everything from quantitative numbers like emissions data, but also like yes/no questions. And actually, the yes/no questions provide a certain lens to other stakeholders, to investors, to governments who say, emissions data is a very advanced stage. Not every company may provide that, but if the company doesn't provide that, do I still have a lens on, do they have a sustainability committee? As a yes/no question that helps with the rise of tech. Then there's also a lot of natural language processing where some of the investors and some of our software partners are also delving into the qualitative data and generating insights from there. So that's CDP's motto. CDP's motto says we start with disclosure or data. We use the disclosures to drive insight, and then from the insight we can drive action for the world. So that's exactly our theory of change. We are a charity, so other people say it's a business model. For us, this theory of change has proven to work, and we are going to use it to generate more action.
Okay, well, thank you. Very, very insightful. Praveen, we've talked a lot about medtech, about pharmaceuticals. Let's talk about healthcare delivery. That's what you're doing. What do you consider are the main issues or the main pain points regarding the implementation of net zero objectives in Singapore for the healthcare delivery business?
Yeah. First of all, thanks for inviting me. And I represent a company called Schneider Electric, who is a technology company in the space of energy management and industrial automation. So that's what we do as a company. Coming to healthcare, just want to set the context right. Healthcare and Singapore, most of the establishments of healthcare in Singapore are government owned. That means the targets set are aligned with what government says. So, just to give you a bit of context of how emissions are in Singapore, 26% of the buildings emissions are coming from buildings. However, only 1% of the buildings are net zero. So when you say you have a target of achieving net zero by 2050, that's a long journey to go. And then I hear my panelists talking about how energy intensive healthcare is. It's actually 5 times healthcare is more intensive than a commercial building or an office building. And it creates 5% of the global emissions, which is more than airport transport and sea transport put together. So that's a big percentage of emissions that we are talking about. Now, when we look at Singapore, what we do not have as a challenge is space and land. So we are completely dependent on technology to create or reach that target. So what I see from my experience is Singapore government is extremely clear what they want to do. They want to make buildings efficient by using 2 main strategies: reduce and replace. What do I mean by reduce? I want to bring my buildings at the most energy efficient possible. So that's where you will see companies like BCA, organizations like BCA working towards zero energy, low energy buildings. And then they would replace it with clean fuels. So this is exactly the strategy that you will see in healthcare as well as in the government as well.
Matthias was mentioning earlier that one big factor of improvement was the relationship in the supply chain, where a business would ask another business to comply, to have better standards, etc. In your client's business, they're not in a B2B relation typically. What are the drivers to get them to have improved standards?
When we talk about healthcare, if you know the policy of healthcare is do no harm. So that means by emissions you are having calamities. And that is the basic of any drivers that you need for healthcare. So that is the basic thing. And then I look into the business aspect. So what is pushing? It's first of all the stakeholders. is pushing for sustainable operations and talent retention. So now people are wanting to associate themselves with sustainable companies or sustainable organizations. The second aspect is the environmental projects that are going on have return on investment at a faster rate than we used to have. So it makes business sense and monetary sense as well. And these would be a couple of drivers that I would say would be very closely associated with engaging in a sustainability roadmap.
And can you do a deep dive about the 3-step approach in life science customers?
So in Schneider, we make the framework very simple. It's strategize. That means you understand where you are today, where you want to go, and how you want to go. That is the first step that every company should follow. Second is digitize, where you say, I want to make my facility more digital to create efficiency and transparency. And the third step, which is to achieve that target, would be decarbonize. And that would align with what before I said, which is reduce and then replace. So these are the 3 basic steps that we would go to achieve the or the framework that we would go for in terms of life science.
And if you are with a company which is not very mature in this area, which wants to start its ESG journey, what pitfalls would you advise them to avoid, and what should they do to achieve their decarbonization targets?
I would like to speak from my own experience. What I have seen is, first, companies would incorporate a consulting firm without a technology partner aligned with it. So they would go on with a strategy, but wouldn't be able to take them over the line without a lack of technology partner on board. So that is one of the main drawbacks that I have seen, or pitfall I've seen companies happening to. Second, I would say governance, like how panelist was talking about, not having a big team and not having accountability to achieve that target. So it would be a bit of blame game, and no clear communication is one of the other drawbacks that I have seen. Possibly the third one is communication gap, I would say. I've seen a lot of companies trying to greenwash a bit and not communicating what they want to achieve with actual numbers. So if you have seen that Apple marketing ad, it's exactly what talking about. Don't give me your stories. Come back to the numbers and let them speak for itself.